What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Pizza Buffet live here on Forward Progress, part of the Hammer Betting Network, and presented by Fanduel. I'm Rob Pizzola, off of a interesting Saturday of football. Got the morning coffee here, ready to go today. Watched pretty much start to finish yesterday. Some of the Saturday games, New England, Los Angeles, obviously not very interesting, but we had some good games with the Bengals and Broncos, certainly. A lot to touch on there with some major coaching stupidity over the course of that game. Rams Cardinals, ugly but close and very entertaining, I found, for a low-scoring game as well. So I don't know that we're going to get that today. Just looking at the card here before we came on air, it is an absolute disaster of a Week 17. There's not many teams that are playing for much at this point. Lots of ugly games today. But it is what it is, and we will get through every single one of them. As always, I'll break down every NFL game in rotation number order. I'll share how I price the side and the total for each matchup. You'll get a peek into my thought process heading into every game. I'll be honest, this week is a tough one. We've got weather impacting multiple games. We got backups all over the place, and we have an NFL market that's, pretty sharp at this point, late in the week. Finding true edges is very challenging right now, but I'll still break down the matchups. I'll share my insights, and you can refine your own approach as well. To make up for the lack of strong opinions I have today on sides and totals, I'll share more props than usual during the show. If I don't mention a specific price, it means I like it across the entire market. Obviously, you should do what you can on your end to make sure that you have access to the best prices possible. You should definitely have a FanDuel account with you as well, especially if you're betting all these touchdown props today. But do what you can, get the best numbers. It all matters. And if you're catching any breaking news in real time, drop it in the chat. There's not a ton I'm focused on today that I think will catch us late, but I'm focused on the game previews here. Your updates are always appreciated in the chat. Before we dive in, smash that like button down below, subscribe, and if you can, share this video out on your social platforms. Goes a long way to helping us grow. It ensures that we can continue doing this going forwards here on Forward Progress. Good morning, everyone. I see Jack, John, Touchdown My Pants, Faduni, Connor, Thomas, Joey, a lot of the usual suspects, some new faces as well. Always like to see some new faces in the early going. Steven Robinson, before we even get into it. Devontae Smith to catch a pass on the first drive, plus 120 at show sponsor FanDuel. Eagles will draw something up for him to show they still have trust in him after his awful drop last week. Hashtag narrative. Listen, I like the handicap, especially for scripted plays in the early going. H-Train, Bigsby, anytime touchdown, plus 210. Windy game, Tennessee D is atrocious. I'll get into more of those afterwards, but I definitely like that look from a prop perspective. Let's hit some winners. Okay, let's do it. Let's get started here. First game on the board, rotation number order, Colts and the Giants. Taking a look at the market, left to right across the board. We pretty much settled in this 7.5 spot, juice towards the New York Giants. So this potentially could come back down closer to game time. Total's been dropping, and we see it roughly 40.5 across the market at this point right now. As you can see by my number on screen, not a strong opinion here. It is a slight weather game. There's expected to be some rain, mostly early in the game. Winds are not going to be too strong. I think that all in all, when we consider all the games on the East Coast today, especially in the Northeast, this one is totally fine from a weather perspective. Now, injury-wise, we obviously know Joe Flacco is going to get the start in place of Anthony Richardson. We don't know about Quentin Nelson on the offensive line for the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, dealing with right tackle Braden Smith being away from the team for some personal stuff as well. So that would be one to keep an eye on, although I'm not sure how much it's going to matter against this New York Giants defensive front. EJ Speed, who was inactive last week, I think will be back in the lineup. Juju Brents has a chance to play today at corner. He's been activated off of IR. He's missed the season so far. 3 full practices this week. He could play. On the Giants side, it's just ugly for them all around. Their center, John Michael Schmitz, is not playing today. He has an ankle injury. So pretty ugly O-line when you consider Andrew Thomas on IR, John Runyon on IR. It's been a problem for them all year. Defensively, same type of deal. issues in the front seven. Micah McFadden is out with a neck injury as well. Just not a great defense all around. So I do think Indianapolis teasers make a lot of sense for this particular game. I do like the probability for Indy to win. The Giants, Malik Neighbors expected to go. Outside of that, it does seem like, and by the way, let me preface what I'm about to say here by, I think the players on the field really want to win. I think the front office really wants the first overall pick here for the New York Giants. I'd be surprised if New York won this game. Never say never. It's the NFL. We see all sorts of crazy outcomes all the time. But with Joe Flacco back there, listen, I know he had some struggles with interceptions early on in the year. The luster kind of wore off, but he's the better quarterback in this matchup, and he's taking advantage of a defense here that's frankly not very good. On the other side, Indy's D has gotten a lot better as the year has gone on. You look at the past 6 weeks, and they're 8th in EPA per play, 8th in EPA per drive, and this is just like a return to full health as the season has gone on. I've talked about this pretty regularly here on Forward Progress. But now that we're at this, situation here, I think the number is right. A couple things I'd look at from a prop perspective in this game. First and foremost, Jonathan Taylor's receiving yards is lined pretty low. Now, most sports books is below 10. Fanduel has a 12.5 here on the board as well. This is very different for Jonathan Taylor with Joe Flacco in the mix, because Joe Flacco will actually check down. Anthony Richardson does not. So to me, the Jonathan Taylor props are pretty low for his receiving yardage. Obviously, shop around. Like I said, there's some 7.5 out there. That makes quite a big, substantial difference in the market, but that's one that I like. And also for a game that's not going to see, huge weather impacts, Drew Lock's passing yardage is in the low 190s right now. And I think that's a little bit too low. It'll be trailing game state for most of the game. There's, again, the weather seemingly has improved as the week has gone on here. That's a little low. I like the JT one a little bit better, but those are a couple of looks that I like for this game today. And that's Drew Lock over, not under, Jason here. I do think that number is slightly tad low when we're looking at a opposing team that is more than a touchdown favorite in this game. All right. Next game on the board is actually going to be our Sunday Night Football game. Rotation number order. This one got flexed into Sunday Night Football. This one is definitely looking at least some weather impact when we look at the Falcons and the Washington Commanders. It's been Falcons money this week. We've settled in at some pretty heavily juiced 3.5s. Wouldn't be surprised if we did see some 3s by kick, just with the way that this has been trending. Total in the game has been bet down through 47 to 46.5. Now, it's going to rain in this game. It doesn't look like a torrential downpour or anything like that, but it looks like you're going to see a lot of rain. It looks like you have consistent winds of 10 to 15 miles an hour, which are on their own are not too bad, but wind gusts up to 30 miles an hour, which will hurt some of the downfield passing game, and is part of the reason why you would get that the bet down in total. Really tough for me to price both of these teams in this particular game. We have the Atlanta offense, where we saw Michael Penix last week make his first start, 0.16 EPA per drop back, which was 12th in the NFL last week. Played well against the blitz. That was the Giants defense. Now, I went back and I watched the game, and I thought Penix actually looked pretty good. Didn't really force anything. The mistake that he made was on Kyle Pitts for the most part in that game. Thought he was fine, but your expectation and my expectation was that it would be fine because they were playing an atrocious defense on the other side. Now, in this matchup, they get Washington, and Washington has a run funnel defense. They are one of the worst defenses in the entire league at stopping the run. I think the run game will be working here for the Falcons. That's going to take a lot of the pressure off of Penix in this particular spot. Road game against in prime time high pressure type of scenario. Don't really know what we're going to get. I think it's a pretty wide range of outcomes for these teams, but that's that. On the other side, you have a Washington offense that's been very up and down. Interesting game last week. I'm pretty sure they would have got blown out of the water if Jalen Hurts didn't get hurt and Kenny Pickett came into that game. They turned it over ad nauseum, still ended up winning the game. And that's a decent sign. This is a now an upgrade for the Atlanta defense. So Atlanta, since the bye week, has had the number 1 EPA defense in the league. And what has substantially changed for that defense? In my opinion, not much. The personnel remains the same. They weren't really going through any major defensive injuries at any point this year. However, they've played the Giants and the Raiders, which helps. Now, they've played the Vikings and the Chargers, who have better offenses, but both Herbert and Darnold are prone to taking sacks. And that's where Atlanta's pass rush has gone home. In fact, the past 6 weeks in the NFL, Justin Herbert and Sam Darnold tied for the most sacks taken in this game. So I don't really know what to make of either of these teams. I think it's, Anthony said, time to cash another big SGP. That's probably the way I'm going to be looking to play it tonight. You can tune in 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'll go live before this game, throw out some long shot type of bets, and hopefully we can cash one in this particular instance. One note on the Washington side, there's a few injuries that I think definitely are playing into this as well. For Atlanta, the corners, Antonio Hamilton, Kevin King, these are depth corners. I wouldn't worry too much about that. But on the Washington side, you have your right tackle, Andrew Wiley, inactive with a groin injury. That's a decently big one. Marshawn Lattimore re-aggravated his hamstring injury. He's out in the secondary tonight. And we might get Jonathan Allen back. Tore a pec muscle. He's been practicing 3 times full practice. Won't know until later on tonight. But that would be a nice big addition to the Washington defensive line if he is active for this game. I do suspect the Falcons will try to run the ball a lot in this game. It is a good matchup for them. I don't have like a super strong opinion on some of these, but I do think Drake London's receiving yardage is a little bit too high. And I know Darnell Mooney's been talked about a lot this week as a guy who has a great matchup here, but I would actually look to target Darnell Mooney under on receptions in this particular game, as I think that this could be a very, very run-heavy game for Atlanta, provided that the game doesn't get away from them too quickly. So Darnell Mooney, you can get plus money on the unders, 3.5. He's a guy that earlier in the year, remember, we cashed the inverse correlation parlay. But I wouldn't go too hard on these. It's just, those are just a few things that I see in this particular game, not one that I currently love from a props perspective. Okay. Third game on the board here will be the Raiders and the Saints. Raiders have been bet out over the course of the week. Fully agree with that move. In fact, I did bet some Raiders, so I'll be rooting for them today. Total sitting in and around 37.5, juice towards the over in this game. This mainly just comes down to the Saints not having a functional offense. Las Vegas is not going to have any new injuries this week. Everybody that's been out remains out because they're on IR. Max Crosby, Ja'Cory Bennett, Zamir White, Gardner Minshew. Obviously, it's an AOC game today. It's the Saints offense where we're going to wait to see if Marquez Valdes-Scantling is going to play, which is hilarious that I even say that because, I mean, this guy was not even an option on other teams in the NFL, and he's potentially their number one for the Saints. But no Rashid Shaheed. Chris Olave not going to play this week. Alvin Kamara with the groin injury. Taysom Hill is still out. They're missing Eric McCoy and Lucas Patrick, center and guard on the offensive line. And I know historically in the NFL that people tend to want to play the Saints in these types of spots, right? Last time we saw them, they got embarrassed on prime time. Their stock is low. Teams that get shut out tend to be good bets the following week. Again, like a stock low thing. The Saints, they just don't have the offense. They just don't have the players. Now, there is something that is more of like a a narrative street, not necessarily narrative street, but have the Raiders landed in New Orleans yet? Big Ross asked. Their flight got delayed. They had to take a later flight out last night. So maybe there's some potential travel issues that are impacting the game, and that's really hard for me to quantify. But from an X's and O's perspective, the Saints offense it's flat out terrible. Spencer Rattler came into the game a couple weeks ago in relief of Jake Haener. He looked fine, but every single time Rattler started a game, the offense is completely dysfunctional. And they don't have a running game. They don't have any receivers that can separate. I know the Raiders' pass rush is not what it once was. Obviously, they lost a lot of players in their defensive line this year, but I would be shocked if the Saints are moving the ball with success. And at least on the Raiders side, you do have those weapons. You have the better quarterback in AOC, who is a huge upgrade. Well, not a huge upgrade, but definitely an upgrade over Desmond Ridder. You have Jacoby Myers, you have Trey Tucker, you have Brock Bowers, legitimate weapons that can be targeted in this particular game. The Raiders still can't run the ball. They try. They probably won't be able to in this game. They haven't been able to all year. But yeah, I agree with the move. And in fact, I think the number might be still a little bit short in this particular game. From a props perspective, really, it was me keying in on Spencer Rattler here. Completion prop is in the 18.5 range, which is quite low for a starting quarterback. And the spread in this game kind of indicates that it will be close. They just do not have it in them to consistently move the ball downfield. So I think this number is a little bit high. A little bit high. Other than that, I don't think there's much to do here. It's kind of an ugly game all around, as is going to be the case with a lot of these games today. But guess what? We can bet on them. And that's the beauty of sports betting. The holidays are here. And when you enjoy all the NFL games going on, Fanduel, America's #1 sportsbook, has you covered. I was on Fanduel this morning, placing a bunch of bets before the show. I place bets on Fanduel every day because it's a great sportsbook. Lots of markets offered, very competitive prices. Site's always working on mobile and web, especially the in-game offering, which I enjoy quite a bit. And right now, all customers get a profit boost every single NFL game day this week. That means you can pump up your gridiron winnings multiple times today. 25% same game parlay profit boost token on any NFL game. So if you're playing a same game parlay, use the profit boost token, get an additional 25%. FanDuel has tons of ways you can get in on the NFL action. You can bet money line, spreads, player props, and more. Plus, with super simple live betting, lightning fast bet settlement, and instant withdrawals, FanDuel makes betting on the NFL easier than ever before. Just visit fanduel.com/forward-progress to download FanDuel today. You must be 21 plus and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC. Opt-in required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including token expiration. See terms for both offers at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right. Tennessee, Jacksonville. Oof. Another ugly one. Taking a look at where the market's at right now, which is the Jags small favorite at home, left to right across the board. Total in the game at 38. I considered betting Jacksonville this week. Ended up with nothing here. Tony Pollard inactive for the Titans, Tyjae Spears game. Issues on the O-line. Dylan Radins is out. Shoulder injury, right guard. They still have issues in the linebacking core, which is one of the reasons I almost took the Jags this week. I'll talk about that a little bit more. Amani Hooker out on the back end. For the Jags, they're going to be missing their left tackle, Walker Little. Ankle injury. O-line is already bad. Take away Walker Little, who was a backup left tackle to start the year. Probably going to be worse than that. Some players out on defense as well. No one of significance. weather is a big concern in this game. There are some storms moving through Jacksonville. There's going to be heavy rain in this game. It's probably going to rain for the majority, if not all of the game. People are predicting, when I say people, actually, I read the Kevin Roth preview this morning, that there could be a lightning delay in this game because it does look like thunderstorms passing overhead. Winds will be gusty as the rain moves in as well. Pretty not ideal conditions in this particular game. So for me, whenever I see these weather games, especially when you know that throwing will be impacted, it comes down to the team that is more likely to be able to run the ball successfully, because you will see a lot of running. Now, Jacksonville's defense is bad, but they're pretty much a league average run D, and they are one of the worst pass defenses out there right now. And when the weather is like this, it kind of neutralizes their biggest weakness. Now, is Mason Rudolph going to be the guy that's going to throw all over them in great conditions? No, probably not. However, now it turns into like a run game both ways around. And I like Jacksonville to stop it a little bit more. And the reason why is Tennessee's defense actually started the year being quite good in run defense. But they lost Jack Gibbons, one of their inside linebackers, to IR back in, I want to say, week 12. Don't quote me on that. Kenneth Murray got put on IR a couple weeks ago as well. And now the linebacking core just isn't very good. Jonathan Taylor had an amazing game against them last week after really struggling for 3, 4, 5 consecutive weeks there. That's where I get the small edge on Jacksonville. Don't love it altogether. Toma asked, do you like the over? I typically, when I'm around market like this, no. And because of the conditions where, listen, I'm not an expert meteorologist at all, I don't see anything much to do here from a side or total perspective at this point. Props. Brian Thomas Jr. and Calvin Ridley's receiving yardage are too high, in my opinion, for these types of weather conditions. I know BTJ is pretty much like the only viable option on the Jags passing offense. But when we're looking at upper 70s for BTJ, low to mid 60s for Calvin Ridley across the board, I like both of those unders for these types of conditions. I actually also think Chiggy Okonkwo, as much as I love the guy, and he's been very good to me at points this season, I also think his number has just been adjusted a little bit too high here for the conditions that we are likely going to see in this game. So for me, I would only be looking to unders on the main receiving markets here for the key players. Even in the receptions market, with Tyler Boyd active now, Nick Westbrook-Akine has been he's been a guy for them. He's come on the scene, but 2.5 with the amount of snaps that he's going to likely get today, and the actual routes he's going to be running with the intent of catching a pass seems high to me. So that's the way I'd be attacking this game. If I was going any sort of SGP type of thing, potentially some alternate under type of stuff with the top receivers under. But listen, it's an ugly game. It is an ugly one. Jets at the Bills in the AFC East. Back and forth in market this week with the Jets catching some original money. Bills take on some late money. And we've kind of settled to this 10 number in and around market right now. Total's been getting bet down this morning, down to 44.5. And the reason being, looks like another very wet game. It's going to rain a little bit longer than expected as of right now, but winds are also going to get stronger as the game progresses. Not anything crazy, 15 to 20 mile an hour winds, but we do have some pretty high wind gusts in this way as well. MRM says, crappy day here in Buffalo. Obviously, I'm just north in Toronto. It is raining outside of my window right now. It's a little bit windy. Seems like an ugly day across a lot of these games in the NFL. Just hopefully we can get some drama and make them a little bit interesting to watch. Taking a look at the injuries for both teams, Devontae Adams is going to play. There's the touchdown narrative going for him, trying to get him a TD in today's game. Maybe that's something, maybe it's not. Hard to parse the rest of the injury report this week because we had a lot of limited practices on Friday for the Jets. I do think Morgan Moses, the right tackle, will play. Olu Fashanu, their left tackle, got put on IR, so they'll be down to third string left tackle there. Hassan Reddick seems like he's going to play in this one. Tony Adams, full practice on Friday, probably going to play as well. Sauce Gardner, though, 3 DNPs this week, probably going to be out for this game. No official lineup confirmation as of yet, as I've seen it, but that's where we stand right now. It's a good game for the Buffalo offense to get back on track. The Jets had a pretty spirited defensive effort against the Rams last week, but the Rams offense is kind of broken right now, and I don't know that people truly realize it. They're running the ball rather effectively, but through the air, there just hasn't been a lot of consistency to that offense. This is a big step up in class. Obviously, the Bills last week kind of struggled against a lot of the man coverage that the Patriots were playing. That was a bit surprising to me, but with Sauce Gardner out, their wide receivers will have matchup advantages. They should be able to run the ball here. At this point, I'm starting to think that the total is getting a little bit too low. Do I have the stones to pull the trigger on the over here? No, I don't, but that's the only way I would look at this point. On the other side, Bills defense has been pretty rough the last 4 weeks. They are getting Rasul Douglas back today, which is big for them at cornerback. Matt Milano back into the lineup as well. Outside of that, I mean, they're still dealing with injuries in the secondary to DeMar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp, but both of those guys actually have a chance of playing today as well. They've been inactive the past couple of weeks. So it's a much healthier Bills defense. Aaron Rodgers is playing a lot better. I know you look at last week and the output against the Rams and be like, well, they only scored 9 points. How can you say that? A lot of negative plays, a lot of penalties, fourth down conversions that didn't work in their favor where they went for it instead of kicking field goals. But the offense is a lot better. I mean, to me, it's still Jets or nothing in this game, Jets and over or nothing. But as it stands right now, I think, market's done a pretty decent job of parsing all the information available to get to this particular number. I do want to take a look at Amari Cooper's overs in this game. He's the only player that really stands out, both from a receptions and a receiving prop standpoint. He had that game 2 weeks ago against the Rams where he had 14 targets. And then since then, basically nothing. I don't think he got targeted last week. I could be wrong. Maybe 1 or 2. Kind of been phased. I don't want to say phased out a little bit, but I do think that there is a concerted effort this week to try to target him and get him a few looks in the passing game this week, based off of what I've read out of Buffalo Bills camp. So Amari Cooper, whether that's receptions at 2.5 or the receiving yards, which is mid to high 20s, I think it's over. XS said he had 1 catch. 2 targets, 1 catch. Last week, 0 targets. The week before that, 14 targets the week before that. I do think they want to get Amari Cooper rolling as we get into the playoffs here. So that's one player where I like the over. It's a good point by Big Ross because of the injuries over the year. Weather has not been kind for Amari Cooper in terms of snap counts and stuff like that. I think this one's a little bit too low. Just a little too low. Carolina, Tampa Bay. Got a lot of messages yesterday saying, why is Tampa Bay getting steamed? Saw some of them this morning as well. Tampa Bay's getting steamed or got steamed yesterday because the Carolina Panthers defense is in shambles right now. This has been pushed up all the way to 10 across market. Fanduel 10.5. Total, I like the over 47.5 as my best bet on the show on Friday. No closing line value there. Market has deemed that it's fine. Don't really have a lot of edges this week to be completely honest, but yeah, I mean, just taking a look at who's lining up on the Carolina, JC Horn, Chow Smith-Wade are both out. So that's 2 of your starting 3 cornerbacks. Josie Jewell, their best remaining linebacker, is going to be inactive this week. Remember, they lost Shaq Thompson, Trevin Wallace earlier this year. Derek Brown is on IR in the front seven. It's a really bad defense overall. Obviously, on the offensive side, most of the fantasy bros are focusing on Chuba Hubbard being put on IR. It's, championship week and whatever, but it's really the defense that is in complete shambles for today's game. And I mean, Tampa should move the ball up and down on Carolina. Now, there is some weather impact in this game as well. Winds aren't going to be a factor. It is likely going to rain. The weather in Jacksonville expected to be worse than the weather in Tampa, but there's certainly a weather impact here at this point. But the Panthers defense just does not have a hope of stopping the Bucs offense right now. And yes, the Bucs have dealt with injuries this year. Kate Otton's going to be out again, but their OC, Liam Cohen, has done a great job of working in a pretty good mix of run and pass. They're getting Bucky Irving more involved in the offense at this point as well. I think that there's a pretty clear path to success for Tampa Bay being able to do whatever they want in this game. They did move the ball well on the Cowboys defense, but turnovers did them in that game. Carolina, not likely to be able to generate many turnovers with the lack of pass rush and not having viable corners in the secondary. On the other side, a little bit concerned about Carolina's offense with their right tackle being out for this particular game. We don't even know who the starting running back is going to be. It seems like Mike Boone is going to be that guy, but certainly a drop off to the offense there. In a trailing game state, I do like Carolina to be able to push the ball downfield. The Bucs defense is not the greatest. We did see Bryce Young torch this defense in an overtime game. I think I want to say at the beginning of December, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I mean, frankly, we saw Cooper Rush torch this defense last week as well. It's all around become an issue for them. Antoine Winfield inactive again. He's their stud on the backside of that defense as well. So still lean to the over here, but if you wanted to go Tampa team total over, that's totally acceptable as well. There's lots of potential options for this game. Touchdown My Pants says MVS is active. All right. Their number one receiver is back, MVS. I think he was the number 5 in Kansas City. I like Bucky Irving under receptions in this game. They've been running him a lot more recently. This is just a modeled out type of situation here for me, where I think 2.5 is a little bit too high. Part of the reason is a lot of times running backs tend to pick up receiving yardage in games and receptions in games where the opposing defense is able to generate pressure. They get some design screens to running backs. You get dump offs under pressure. I don't see that being the situation in this particular game. So I look to his unders as well. I do think some of the Panthers receivers are lined a little bit high in the receiving yardage market, but I'm worried that this game will get away from them. Thielen's in the upper 50s. Xavier Legette is in the mid 30s. Those are a little bit higher than I expected them to come in, but I'm going to just lay off of them here because I do think that there is a pretty clear path here for the Bucs being able to score, and then Carolina's got to go balls to the wall at this point. I don't mind this look actually for Bucky because he is pretty explosive when he catches the ball. So yeah, I would consider him to be a decent inverse correlation parlay type of guy. Late window, we got the Packers and the Vikings. Game of the day, I will be tuned into this. I hope it's a good one. I don't have a strong opinion here. Most of the market is at -1 in this game, and most of the market is at a total of 49. It's basically where I come in and around as my number. I'm actually surprised at how many people I know that really like one of the sides in this game, which is, a little bit surprising to me. Seems like a pretty easy game to price where you got to make Minnesota a small favorite, and the total seems to be exactly where I thought it would be as well. I'll just talk through it a bit here. I do trust Green Bay a little bit more as a team right now because of Jordan Love's sack avoidance and relative to Darnold's, who does not have any sack avoidance. And I think negative plays could be the difference maker in this particular game. Green Bay's offense has kind of shifted to run-first offense, kind of similar to what the Rams have done in recent weeks, where they're getting so much success out of the running game that they've just started to run the ball more and more, and Josh Jacobs has played well. The Vikings have a very good run defense, and that'll be an interesting matchup today, because if Green Bay is successful in the running game in the early going, I do like their chances of winning this game. If they can't get the run going and it falls on Jordan Love, I mean, he could still beat the Vikings defense, but it's a little bit harder. And also Love has some accuracy issues downfield in particular, where I think you could potentially see some turnovers if you're forcing Love into some third and long type of situations. Other side, Darnold playing great, but taking sacks. The O-line is just not very good. I know they traded for Cam Robinson midseason when Darisaw got hurt, but that was a pretty big drop-off for them in its entirety. I don't know. I just think that there's nothing for me to do here. I didn't really come remotely close to betting this at any point over the course of the week. Christian Watson is out for the Packers. Quay Walker is out on the backside. Jair Alexander is inactive. Evan Williams is inactive. These are significant blows. If it was up to me, it's Minnesota or nothing if I, just had to pick. But, I mean, my number in the game is right on the number. So not much more to do here for this particular game. I'll talk props and then react to some of the news really quickly. I think this is a good game for TJ Hawkinson to go over receptions. Did us in a little bit in a game recently, but Hawk is my guy. I think he'll be a go-to guy over the middle of the field here against this Packers defense today. In the 4.5 receptions, I do like his over. Jalen Naylor is lined at, I want to say, 7.5 receiving yards, 9.5 plus 100. I like that as well. I think Naylor is going to get looks in this game. Again, just based off of some guesswork, so to speak. But I think that number is a little bit low. Jaden Reed looks a little high to me in the 50s here as well. Just a bit. So those are the three that I think stand out for this particular game. Sauce Gardner is active today. Upgrade the Jets a little bit. 3 times DNP. I don't know if he's going to end up playing this whole game. Wouldn't be surprised to see him leave hurt again, but that was kind of a surprise to see him active. Do we know about Watson for sure yet? I don't know that it was for sure. I just may have marked him out on my sheet. Neighbors officially active. That's not a surprise there either. So nothing new, I would say, other than Sauce Gardner. What was your strongest betting opinion earlier in the week? What number did you get, and what is it now? For today's games, I would say that, let me see. Let me just pull up my stuff. Don't have a ton going on here, but I do want to answer the question. Bet some Las Vegas at 1.5. Bet some more at pick. We have some Tennessee, Jacksonville under 41 as a strong opinion. Bet Carolina, Tampa Bay over 47.5. Markets right there at what it is now. Ended up with a very good price. Miami, Cleveland under 40. That was just liking that, expecting Tua to play. So got lucky on that. Dallas 9, not in love with it anymore. That was on the CeeDee Lamb injury. It was slim pickings this week relative to past weeks. Chargers 4 was a good one though. Chargers 4 was a good one. Although I lost the Broncos yesterday too, and I thought that was a good one. Don't even get me started. Don't even want to think back to it. Dallas and Philly, which is now in the early slate for today's game. Little segue here because I just talked about the game. Philly settled in as a 7.5 point favorite. Total is 37.5. Obviously, lots of injury stuff to parse in this game. Jalen Hurts is out with a concussion, so it's Kenny Pickett getting the start. Might get Bryce Huff activated for this game for the Eagles as well. Outside of that, not really any significant injuries. Nakobe Dean is out in the linebacking core. The Cowboys are a disaster in terms of injuries going into this game. CeeDee Lamb being put on IR with his shoulder injury is a big problem with the amount of targets that he's been getting from Cooper Rush in recent weeks. On the back end for the Cowboys, Amani Oruwariye, one of their corners, goes on IR. So they now have Trevon Diggs, Kalen Carson, Amani Oruwariye, all on IR. Donovan Wilson is banged up at safety as well. I really wanted Dallas in this game. Let's start with the weather here because it's Philly. It's not supposed to rain in Philly today, but it is supposed to be relatively windy, roughly 15 miles an hour. That will affect quarterback play down the field, especially with weaker arm guys like Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush has played well recently. This is going to be a different animal for Cooper Rush. Down his top receiver, who is like literally getting almost double-digit targets per game with Cooper Rush. Guy that's targeted heavily on third down. The wide receiving core is just not the same. And it's going to be challenging for Dallas to consistently move the ball on this defense. Now, do I love the Eagles' offense in this situation? No, but I do think that they'll find some success running the ball. Cowboys' run personnel in the front seven is not the best. They have stepped up their game recently, but this is a different animal altogether. I mean, 7.5 seems a tinge valuable with Dallas here, considering I just don't trust the Philly offense. I don't think that they have enough explosive plays in them with Kenny Pickett, but that is just a lean more than anything else, I would say, at this point. For props, I can't believe I'm saying that. In the passing yards market, I kind of think both quarterbacks are priced a little bit too low, both Pickett and Rush. This is what I would expect to see if conditions are so bad that you can't throw the ball. For Pickett, I see some 180.5 out there. For Rush, I even see some 189.5. I mean, it's pretty ugly, but those numbers seem a touch low to me versus what I would have expected with these types of conditions today. I would even say A.J. Brown's receiving props at 5.5 receptions with the lack of corners for the Cowboys. That also seems a little bit low to me. Scary for overs in this type of matchup with two backup quarterbacks, but I actually see the value on the overs in this game. Both to throw 200 plus is plus 288 at Fanduel. Interesting. We'll end it off with the other game in the late window today. Dolphins and Browns. Disgusting game. I don't know that Tua's officially been ruled out yet, but it seems like he's trending towards not playing. Total has been bet all the way down to 32.5 minus 115 at FanDuel. I could only really bet Cleveland in this game now that we're here. Bad weather game again. Big time wind. We're looking at 25 miles an hour in the second half of this game, 35 plus in the second half. It's going to get worse as the game goes on. And you have the Cleveland Lake effect. It's going to be disastrous. Both of these quarterbacks are noodle arms, right? You have DTR, you have Tyler Huntley. We saw Tyler Huntley play a lot this year. And the Dolphins offense can't move the ball with this guy. They just can't. I mean, when it was Tyler Huntley as the quarterback, they were bottom 2 EPA and success rate team in the league. Without Tua, they scored 50 points in 5 games. This is a quality defense at home on the road that can generate a pass rush. Miami's not the team that can run it down another team's throat either. It is a real challenge for me to not click Cleveland 3.5 this morning. I tell myself it's game day. The market is the market. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a complete and utter disaster of a quarterback, but he does have a dual threat in that he can actually run the ball. It's a real tough one all around. I definitely would play DTR under on completions and passing yards in this game with the conditions. I don't think he could throw the ball through these types of conditions, and I think he'll be much more heavily involved in the run game than the pass game today. Look for passing yards a little bit higher. FanDuel's at 152.5, but there's higher numbers than that. Same on the pass completions. But I just don't see the Browns even attempting that. This is types of conditions where you wouldn't want DTR throwing it downfield. On the Dolphins side, Devon Achane in the receiving game, I would look towards his unders there as well. I typically would think that the Browns are playing very close to the line of scrimmage in this game, and looking to take Achane out of the game, as he is the most viable option for them in this type of weather condition. So under on receiving yards and receptions. We'll have to wait to see what the official inactives are for Miami, but they elevated wide receiver from the practice squad. They already have Grant Dubose on IR. D. Eskridge missed last week. Jalen Waddle's not going to play in all likelihood today. Maybe Tyreek Hill doesn't even play. And we don't even know that Teron Armstead is going to play at left tackle today. I expect he will, because he got in a limited practice on Friday. But yeah, that's an ugly game all around. Okay, that's it for most of the games today. Again, just taking a look at the screen. This is a really bad time to be making bets just over an hour before game starts. You know, if I wanted to, I could get $250,000 down in a few clicks at this point. So books are pretty confident in their numbers, but I would say a little lean towards Jacksonville. Still like Carolina, Tampa Bay over. Maybe Tampa Bay team total is the better play there altogether. Tampa is kind of out of the teaser range now. So it's, I mean, if you're going to look for a pairing with the Colts, I don't trust the Eagles enough. I would probably look to the Packers. Not that I necessarily love that. Las Vegas, very small lead in there as well, although most of that has been, bet out of position at this point. Lean Bills over in that game, lean Cowboys, lean Browns. Green Bay, Minnesota, I got pretty much nothing there. Atlanta, Washington, pretty much nothing there as well. So that's where we're at this point. I can hang around really quickly if anyone has any additional questions. Tank Bigsby, most rush yards, 66-1. I'm not, I have trouble pricing this particular market. I do think that is a viable option with how badly Tennessee's run defense has looked in recent weeks. I just worry that ETN's still there eating away at some of the carries, which would be a problem. I'll break down Monday Night Football tomorrow night. Actually, I would only bet San Fran in the game, but I got scared off of it just due to the amount of injuries on the offensive line for the 49ers. Although I'm not sure the Lions are necessarily equipped to capitalize on that. Anytime touchdown score market. All right, let's pull it up. Again, I'm going to recommend stuff up to certain prices. This is a market where if you don't have a Fanduel account, I think you're doing yourself a big disservice. Obviously, they're the sponsor of our show, but you're going to get the best price on anytime touchdowns there. I'm estimating. Don't quote me on this, but like at least 3/4 of the time, the hold in their markets on touchdown scores are way less. So let's start with Carolina, Tampa Bay as our first game. This one is easy for me in terms of just price relative to what I think the workload will be, and that's going to be Mike Boone at plus 360. I honestly just wouldn't even play this at another sports book. You got to play it at FanDuel. 360 is a great price. 300 would be a great price, in my opinion, on Mike Boone. So you got to go to Mike Boone plus 360. Dallas and Philly. I know that typically speaking, I would look to some wide receivers because of the injury to CeeDee Lamb, but I'm actually just going to look to Rico Dowdle at plus 195. Again, solid price. The only thing that scares me is honestly, I'm not sure how much Dallas can score in this game, but I do think that they'll be pretty run heavy, especially in the red zone in today's game without the realistic wide receiving options that can win outside. So Rico Dowdle to me, plus 195. Mike Boone, plus 380. Just keep going. I don't actually know what that breakdown is going to be at running back today, honestly, for that team. But that to me seems like a no-brainer. All right. Jacksonville, Tennessee. I'm going to piggyback off of whoever said that they really liked, where was it? Tank Bigsby today. And we're going to take Tank Bigsby plus 240. Little bit higher, lower or higher odds than I wanted to give out. But I think that these are 3 solid bets on backups who should see a decent workload today in games where I think that they'll be the primary targets in the red zone, either due to weather or due to what else is available to them on offense in those particular games. From a long shot perspective, I'm not sure that there's much that I really like. Ray Davis would be the guy, I think, at 5-1 for Buffalo, considering he absolutely trampled them in the first time that they played. Not a bad look there either. Looking further down the board, if you want something for Sunday Night Football, Jamison Crowder, 5-1, I think is actually a decent play as well. That's a lot of touchdown scores. Every one of those, I think, is a valuable bet in some capacity. Just be careful with these. They're low edge type of market. You don't want to go nuts. Blackshear starting running back for Panthers. Yes. I don't know that I would put too much stock into that. I'm not saying that they're lying, like Gerard Mayo was outright lying yesterday about Ramondre Stevenson getting benched. I'm just saying that, like, is Raheem Blackshear going to steal the workload at running back because he's going to come in and be such a viable running back? I don't think so. Connor just says San Fran cleared a bunch of guys for tomorrow, including Bosa. I'm just looking at that right now. I don't think that there's anyone that's a surprise. It's not. Cowboys, Eric Kendricks playing, Nick Vigil, that's their linebacking core. Jalen Tolbert got cleared. Jalen Brooks got cleared. Donovan Wilson got cleared. So those are all good to go as well right now. Yesterday's Gibson Sweat. So, I mean, I'll sign off in a second here, but whenever you see information like that, right, that's not priced in, you got to capitalize on it right away. So Ramondre Stevenson going to get benched. Even if it's for one series, that's going to affect his prop total. It's going to affect Gibson. So natural move, Stevenson unders, Gibson overs. But I was able to get a lot more on Gibson over because I think that's like the second thing that people look to, and everyone starts smashing Stevenson right away. That final drive made me so happy. I was tilting up until that point in the game. Major tilt. I already can't stand Gerard Mayo because I think he's such a clown head coach. But that 20-yard run at the end, for those who watched the live watch-alongs here on Forward Progress, you don't see me animated too often. There are some times I'll get up, I'll fist bump, I'll yell, but I'm not really betting amounts of money here that like are uncomfortable to me. Let's just put it that way. I'll obviously want to win. That one, I stood and did the audible fist pump and yell at the TV. Very rare pizza man move for me. Very rare, but it happened. XS, you can go back to the second game I covered earlier today when I signed off air. I did give my thoughts on Sunday Night Football. I just happened to go rotation number order, and because they flexed this into Sunday Night Football, it was still second in the rotation. Definitely allowed. Hello. Definitely happened. Aaron Jones revenge game. There's lots of revenge games going on in the league nowadays. Both of those teams want to win. I wouldn't think that there's any sort of mispricing on Aaron Jones because he's playing his former team. Just my thoughts on that. Is plus 750 a good price for Jordan Love anytime TD? It's a good price relative to market, but it's a bad price in my opinion. Yeah, I wouldn't take Jordan Love unless you gave me 10-1 or more, just based off of my numbers for today. All right. Tonight, I'm back here tonight, per usual. Now, it'd be a little bit tricky previewing Week 18 and going through the early Week 18 numbers because there's not going to be a lot for these teams to play before Obviously, I'll give my thoughts on week 18 tonight, but don't anticipate locking in a ton of bets early or finding a ton of value early. I'm going to have to parse through a lot of injury and news information over the course of the week. But regardless, back here tonight, watch along, Falcons, Commanders. I'll give out any props I like before the game. SGPs before the game. Maybe Clive will join me tonight. Clive was in Texas. He was watching a bowl game this week. His flight got canceled. He's still in Texas. He's going to be on shitty hotel room Wi-Fi. So we'll see if we can get Clive in for tonight. I know he's in the chat right now. If he can make it, he can make it. If not, it'll be me solo previewing the games for next week and then watching the rest of Sunday Night Football. I wish everyone the best of luck on today's card, unless you're against me, of course. If you're with me, best of luck. If you're against me, best of luck on everything else, but I hope the bets you're against me on lose. I'll see everyone back here tonight. This has been the Pizza Buffet, Week 17 in the NFL here on Forward Progress, presented by Fanduel. Enjoy your day, everyone. Good luck with your bets.